Alright, so I'm gonna be going over each of the sectors. So XLK, which is a tech sector, it broke this trend line all the way from the end of November. So I personally think it's bearish, but if it gets above these EMAs again and reclaims the trend line, then I think it should be good. Because every single dip that this market has had has just been getting bought up. Alright, and then NVIDIA, this is going to be my top watch for the week because it just reclaimed all the daily EMAs. So if it gets above previous day high and the market's bullish, could see a move up to 193 or 194. Apple, Apple's kind of a weird one. It's not like super clean, so I don't know. It's kind of mid. I think it'll consolidate here a little bit or dip down while the EMA catches up. The EMA. So it's not my top watch. Microsoft, not really seeing anything. Could get another bearish setup down to 380. And there's also a gap that I didn't mark. But yeah, I guess this could be a bearish setup. AVGO, if it gets above the 50, then we could also see it. Could also see that filling the gap and then pushing up towards the 360 area. So that's gonna be a good watch. Intel looks very good, yes it does. NVIDIA and Intel are the main ones that I'm gonna be watching this week. PLTR, not really seeing nothing to be honest. MU, if you guys like to trade MU, I personally don't really like trading MU just because the spreads on it have bagged me a few times. But if you like trading MU, if it gets above the daily 8, you can see a move to all-time high again. It's been the strongest stock this entire time. And then AMD, I want to see it move up towards the gap again. I'm gonna get that out of there. Yeah, I want to see it move up towards the gap, towards the 225 area. Oops. Oracle, not really seeing nothing. Could be a bearish setup if it gets below 135. Cisco, this one, shares are pretty good for this. The spreads on options are really bad, so I don't recommend trading that using options. IBM also looks really good. If it gaps above previous day high, you could see a nice move. So that's gonna be another watch. Alright, so that's the main stocks in the tech sector. And communication services. If we break this trend line to the downside, we could see a nice flush. And then I guess Google could be good if it gets above the 80 MA. So that'll be a side watch. Netflix, that hasn't really been doing nothing. We had a nice pre-market high retest the other day on that, but I think could get another leg down off the 80 MA, but we'll see. Disney, no setup there. Alright, and then all these other ones don't really need to look at. Consumer staples has been the strongest sector for the past months. And Walmart went absolutely nuts on Friday. So I'm gonna watch this for another move up. Costco if you have enough capital to do shares and size pretty decent with shares on this, it's ready to break out. Sector really strong, breaking out. Costco right at this really all the way from June. It's a pivot point all the way from June. So I think this could see a move up to the 1060 area. PG shares, and then all these other ones are just share names, but I'm going to focus on the option ones for now. Energy has been good. XOM is the only one that I'd be focusing on because the spreads for everything else are pretty bad. Utilities, I don't need to focus on that. Financial market. Alright, so for the finances, we hit some nice trades on Bank of America and Wells Fargo last week. So I want to see it completely fill this gap and make another push towards the next gap. So the financial market and consumer staples and tech, those are going to be the main sectors coming into this week. So we're going to be looking at Wells Fargo for another continuation up. It also broke this trend line here. I don't know why this spot is so high up, but alright, yeah, I'm going to be watching Wells Fargo above 95 so it can get a push to all-time highs. And then same with Bank of America, I want to see it push to all-time highs again too. And Citigroup, this was a banger on Friday. This is one of my top watches, but there were other stocks that had better options than this. The options on this aren't that good. And then Goldman Sachs could break this trend line here if you want to play shares. Alright, materials, we don't need to worry about that. Consumer discretionary, I want to see this gap fill here. And then Amazon, two really big gaps in this spot. So I want to see it start pushing up, get a little bit of a bounce here going. But the capital expenditure on these was pretty bad. So overall bearish. And then Tesla, there's not really any setup here, to be honest. I don't want it to reclaim all the EMAs before taking any longs. Starbucks looks pretty good. Could see a move to all-time high after it gets past 100. Industrial, don't gotta worry about that. Semis are pretty good. What's up? Semis can break this trend line on the sector chart, so could be watching AVGO. AVGO is part of the semis. QCOM, not really anything in there. You could see a little move into the gap. Right here. But I'd only take this if the sector is still strong and is breaking that trend line. And then AVGO is also part of the semis, but I have it in tech because it's also XLK has holdings in AVGO as well, but it's also a semi name. And then healthcare looks really good. Want to see it. This is like the cleanest trend line that you're gonna get. Want to see it move to all-time highs again. What's up? Yeah. Alright, and then UNH, I want to see it. There's not really any setup here, to be honest. You could see it move up towards the gap, but the EMAs are right there. But yeah, so the main sectors we're going to be watching: XLK, if it can get over all the EMAs, consumer staples for just more all-time high pushes, and then financial market, I want to see it move up towards the next gap, and semiconductors, and then also healthcare. Alright, now my main watch list that I'm going to be going over: Roblox, nothing. Hymns, nothing. All of these names I haven't really touched for a long time. All these right here, so I'm gonna skip over these real quick. Alright. Chipotle, you could get a nice share position for a long-term holding on these. XOM, like we talked about before. BP could get shares or take leaps far out. LLY, yeah, we're gonna be live trading every week, or every day next week. Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. Sounds good, bro. Yeah, I'll make one. Alright, see you, bro. Alright, and then Walmart, like we talked about before, want to see continue pushing through all-time highs. Apple, not really liking it. And then Intel, this is gonna be my favorite setup. I've been waiting for it to get this gap fill for a long time, and we had a nice trade last Friday on this. But yeah, if it gets above previous day, I'm seeing it going to like 55. So this is my main watch. Google, if it can get above 80 MA, could see a setup there. Microsoft, it's overall bearish, but we could see a push towards the EMAs. And then Tesla, if we get above the EMAs on these, then could be good, but not really seeing nothing on that. And then Nvidia, my second top watch. AMD, my third top watch. Sorry, AVGO is my third top watch, if it gets above the 50. And then MU, if it gets above the daily 8. And then Amazon, want to see it fill this gap a little bit. But there's also some pivot points from before that it just completely gapped through, so could see some resistance on that. PLTR, could see a move up to the daily 8. SoFi, could also see a move to the daily 8. But these aren't going to be my main watches. They'll be sides, but not going to be my main thing. Meta, if it gets over the daily 8, could see it moving a little bit. Alright. And now going over the indexes. So the 8 just crossed the 20, which isn't a super good sign, especially since this long trend line broke. So it could just tap the 80 MA and start coming down. Maybe, I think futures are active right now. Let me see. Yeah, futures are not active yet. But if you look at the futures over the overnight session, you could get an idea of what the sentiment for the market's going to be for that day. Alright, SPY could see move to all-time highs. Qs has been weak just because of the capital expenditure on tech names, but SPY's still good overall. IWM just broke this trend line. This is going to be super saucy. Could see it move to all-time high next week. So I don't really trade the indexes that much, but IWM is going to be a banger if it plays out. And then VIX also coming down below 18. But yeah, that's basically what I'm gonna be watching for this week. Do y'all got any questions?